Welcome to the Liberating Joy in Learning podcast. I'm Verena Beckstrand, and today we're continuing our discussion of learning principles found in Mind Your Mindset, the science that shows success starts with your thinking, by Michael Hyatt and Megan Hyatt Miller. An important principle that helps us find joy in learning is joyful learning requires both following our intuition with our heart and being deliberate with our minds. In Hyatt and Miller's book, they use the words intuition, subconscious, gut, and default mode to describe what our heart does, and they use words like reason, conscious mind, periods of focus, and single-track thinking to describe what our mind does. Both of these help us maximize our joy in learning. They explain, intuition and reason are two forms of knowing. Either one can arrive at the right answer, but the best situation is when both are in agreement. Also, they say, when you have an aha moment, it's usually the result of synergistic interaction between the two networks. So to boost your creativity, it's important to alternate between the two. You need periods of focus on a problem and periods of letting your conscious mind rest. Free from the single-track thinking of the executive network, the default mode looks for all sorts of solutions that might never occur to your conscious mind. They caution, however, don't rely on your gut alone. Whenever you can interrogate your narrator, take a moment of conscious reflection, pause, and poke a bit. So, how has your mind helped you learn or not learn?
Well, I think a good example that you hear about all the time is people saying they got writer's block. They can't think of things. There's I think that translates into any endeavor where you just get to a point where your mind is like, I'm worn out, I can't think of anything, and you can't go. And
right.
it kind of stagnate.
But then you default in that.
Right, but then the problem is you default that I can't do it, so I want to move on.
Certainly, there's times when you just need to take a break.
Right. And there's other times where, and I think this is kind of a mixture of both, because you'll be thinking a good example is a sitcom. Now the name escapes me, but the main character, he's got this earworm in his head. He's got this song that's repeating over and over and over and over, and he can't remember can't think about why, and he gets to something else, and his subconscious mind takes over and remembers. Recognize with the song, and he's able to move on. I think we've all had that point where we're thinking like, I can't think of what it is, and so you
which you just demonstrated.
What I just demonstrated, and you start thinking about something else, and then your mind will like, okay, I got it. It'll all of a sudden pop into your mind.
Right, the subconscious mind is working.
Right,
and you have to just let it do its thing until because your conscious mind is not necessarily going to find it.
Right, Big Bang Theory.
Right.
That's what it was.
I'm thinking Psych may have a moment like that.
That Psych may have had a moment like that too.
The episode where he's tap dancing, and the tap dancing, when he's focused on something else, the tap dancing helps his subconscious mind do its thing.
Right, exactly. And I think that's where in the Mind Your Mindset, that aha moment where you're letting your mind is working on a problem and it can't reach it, but you have to put it aside, and your subconscious will keep working on it if it's important to you.
Yeah, and that's pretty much what I wrote down. When the mind is thinking, and the train of thought that's available to it at that moment for whatever reason is like, it's not taking you where you want to go. And so the mind has its limits.
Right.
So how has your heart helped you learn or not learn?
I think it's all tied together. For me, I can't think of an instance where learning has been separated between my mind or my heart.
It is difficult.
It is.
I'm very clear that sometimes it's difficult to understand the difference between the two.
I mean, when I was going to school, I took a lot of math classes, and math for me was to a certain degree was easy. I could, algebra is a piece of cake for me. It comes easy, so I can work through those. And so in that instance, it's not mind and heart; it's just my mind. It comes easy to me, and I'm able to go through it. So that's an example of my mind, helping me learn. Got to a point where my mind was like, okay, time out. That's as far as we're going to go, and I couldn't go any further than where I had gotten. But for a long time, that's
I think it's because you're a guy. I'm cautious about using gender descriptions.
No, I understand.
But I know I am very emotional, so I wrote down too emotional. Right. When the heart takes over and all you can do is feel.
Right.
And at some point, you have to move on and say yes and, right? That's a common phrase I've heard, yes and ... where we're going to feel this, we're going to own it, we're not going to negate
Right.
it, we're just going to move on.
Right.
And sometimes the heart has a hard time moving on.
Right. It does. Using principles in primary lenses and using primary lenses to create learning vistas can help us reach our growing desires. These are like the stories that Hyatt and Miller describe in their book. They explain that stories help us move quickly and confidently through the world because most of the things we believe are at least true enough to help us make good decisions. They also say once you've optimized your strategy and improved your execution of that strategy, you may still be left with a gap. In other words, whenever we're stuck or stalled, we need to examine our stories. A new story presents a bridge over the gap, a better solution to our problems. If we want better results, we'll have to tell ourselves better stories. If our stories determine our experience of reality, we can improve our reality by improving our stories. And that creates a positive feedback loop that rewires our brain, making us stronger, more resilient, and more capable of addressing the changes, choices, and chances of life. So, question is, when have you told yourself a story that didn't help you learn?
When I started to start playing the piano again a few years ago, it was after we moved here to Texas. And I got a book, I used to know how to play the piano, something like that. And I gave myself the choice to play only the kinds of music that I wanted to. In the past, growing up, as with a teacher, you play what they tell you to do and whatever. Mm-hmm. And so the story that I told, so it's not really a story I told myself. It's a story that I chose not to follow, right? I should go through this book and develop my skills, but because I'm old enough to just choose what I want to do with the piano, I've developed enough skills that I'm satisfied with that. That the story I'm telling myself is play what you want to and enjoy playing whatever kind of music that you enjoy. And that made it so that I didn't dread it because this was music that I wanted to play. Right.
And I think that's the big difference in when we talk about stories is if we want to change our outlook on something, if the story, that they using their descriptive word, is not helping us progress, if it's bringing us down, changing the story, like you said, I don't have to do it this way. I can say, okay, well, this is good enough for me. I've achieved the direction I want to go. I've got as far as I want to go. I'm comfortable with that. I don't have to do what society's story is.
Right.
It's what I'm comfortable with. And by changing that, maybe not changing the story, but changing the outlook, I think is the big key.
Right. So there's a lot of great stories that the world will tell us, culture, society, our friends, or whatever. And we have to decide the story that we want to tell ourselves that will meet the needs of our learning.
Right.
So that...
Yeah.
I have nothing else to say about that.
Primary lenses and learning vistas need to be revisited and improved over time. Hyatt and Miller describe how very often the solutions we need are found not in one moment, but in following a chain of new insights and next steps. So the question is, when have you seen your understanding of how to reach a growing desire improve over time?
So I have a notebook, and that notebook in and of itself has evolved over time. Learning Liberated has gone through several names, and so has this notebook. But the thing that I have changed the most is my stretching. As I go back in and I experience life, or I hear something and I'm like, oh, that would be great for this growing vista. And so then I change that. And it's really great to change the stretching because it helps me grow where I need to grow with that.
Right.
So those are the things that I've changed the most.
Right.
Other things I have changed, but that's been the most.
Right. I mean, for me, I think it's a better understanding of plateaus and recognizing when I've hit a plateau in my learning and knowing that, okay, I have to either make the decision that this is as far as I'm willing to go, or if I want to go further, I got to do something else. I got to change the story.
Yeah.
What do I have to do? Make the change to accelerate or excite me about going forward from where I've reached.
Cool.
And I think that's something. I mean, the example we use all the time in this podcast is disc golf. And the realization that by chance of a couple of videos that came across, just the way to hold the disc and how to approach the shot has improved our ability to play greatly in the last month or two.
Yeah. I apologize for all of the disc golf examples, but I am confident that God gave us this partly for this
Right.
podcast. So we have something that was easy to talk about in relation to learning. And I hope that each of you who are listening to this can think of situations, learning opportunities that you've had that you can apply in a similar way.
Right. Well, that wraps up this discussion of how Michael Hyatt and Megan Hyatt Miller's book, Mind Your Mindsets, helps us understand working with our heart and mind and primary lenses. If you find other interesting learning thoughts in this book, we'd love to hear about them. And as always, if you have questions or comments, message us at learningliberated@gmail.com or on our Learning Liberated Facebook group with any questions or comments. And if this episode spoke to you, share with someone else that might enjoy it as well.
Bye.
See ya.